Hamas is an Islamist militant movement and one of the Palestinian territory's two major political parties. It governs more than 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, but the group is best known for its armed resistance to Israel. Its history is filled with both controversy and complexity, and it has played a pivotal role in shaping the region's destiny. Join us as we explore the history of the group and what led them to where they are today. Many nations have classified Hamas as a terrorist group, although in certain cases this designation is limited to its military faction. Iran offers both material and financial backing to the organization, and it's been reported that some of its senior figures find refuge in Turkey. In contrast, Fatah, a rival Palestinian party that wields authority within the Palestine Liberation Organization (PLO) and governs the West Bank, has formally rejected the use of violence. The persistent rift in Palestinian leadership and Hamas's enduring antagonism towards Israel have eroded the potential for stability in Gaza. Hamas, an abbreviation for the Islamic Resistance Movement, Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, came into existence through the efforts of Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Yassin, a Palestinian religious scholar, transitioned into activism within local branches of the Muslim Brotherhood after an early life dedicated to Islam scholarship in Cairo. Starting in the late 1960s, Yassin engaged in preaching and charitable activities in the West Bank and Gaza, both territories occupied by Israel following the 1967 Six-Day War. During its formative years, Hamas was more than just a paramilitary organization. It established an extensive array of social services, encompassing educational institutions, medical facilities, and charitable foundations. These endeavors played a pivotal role in building support among the Palestinian population. Hamas maintains a military faction referred to as the Isal Din al-Qassam Brigades, which has been responsible for numerous assaults against Israel and within Palestinian territories dating back to the 1990s. These actions encompass a range of activities, such as extensive bombings aimed at Israeli civilian sites, armed assaults involving small weapons, the use of improvised roadside explosives, and rocket assaults. In December 1987, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin established Hamas as the political arm of the Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza. This move coincided with the outbreak of the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. At the time, one of Hamas's primary objectives was to counter the influence of Palestinian Islamic Jihad (PIJ), another organization advocating violent resistance against Israel. PIJ posed a threat of diverting Palestinian support away from the Brotherhood, making Hamas's establishment strategically significant. In 1988, Hamas unveiled its charter, advocating for the obliteration of Israel and the establishment of an Islamic society in historic Palestine. In an attempt to present a more moderate image, Hamas introduced a revised document in 2017, which, while embracing the concept of an interim Palestinian state along the Green Line border delineated prior to the Six-Day War, still refrained from acknowledging Israel's existence. Hamas employed suicide bombings for the first time in April 1993, a mere 5 months before PLO leader Yasser Arafat and Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin inked the Oslo Accords. This landmark agreement created a framework for a limited self-governance in certain areas of the West Bank and Gaza through the establishment of the Palestinian Authority. However, Hamas vehemently opposed the Oslo Accords, as well as the mutual recognition between the PLO and Israel. Arafat and Rabin formalized this recognition in letters, exchanged just days before the Oslo signing. In 1997, the United States officially classified Hamas as a foreign terrorist organization. The organization later played a leading role in violent resistance during the early 2000s, particularly during the Second Intifada. However, it is essential to note that Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, and Fatah's Tanzim militia also contributed to acts of violence against Israelis during this period. In June 2008, Hamas engaged in a 6-month accord with Israel, resulting in a notable reduction in rocket attacks. However, subsequent to this temporary period of calm, Hamas resumed rocket attacks, leading to a significant Israeli military intervention in late December 2008. Following this operation, which inflicted substantial damage on Hamas's infrastructure in the Gaza Strip, Israel declared a unilateral ceasefire on January 18, 2009. In July 2014, the tenuous tranquility between Hamas and Israel completely disintegrated following the tragic abduction and subsequent deaths of 3 Israeli teenagers in the West Bank, incidents attributed by Israel to Hamas. Additionally, a Palestinian lost his life in a retaliatory act by Israel settlers. In response to these events, retaliatory rocket attacks were launched by Hamas's military division and other Palestinian militant groups within the Gaza Strip. This escalation led to the longest and deadliest conflict with Israel since 2009. As a designated terrorist organization, Hamas is excluded from the official aid programs that the United States and the European Union extend to the Palestinian Liberation Organization (PLO) in the West Bank. Traditionally, Palestinian expatriates and private donors in the Persian Gulf region have been significant sources of funding for the movement. Furthermore, certain Islamic charities in Western countries have funneled financial support to social service organizations affiliated with Hamas, leading to US Treasury sanctions on their assets. Even before Hamas's 2023 attack on Israel, Gaza's economic situation was already deeply dire. The subsequent conflict is all but guaranteed to worsen the extreme poverty experienced by its residents. Egypt and Israel had largely sealed their borders with Gaza during 2006 to 2007, severely limiting the flow of goods and people into and out of the territory. Presently, both nations maintain a blockade, effectively isolating the region from much of the world. This isolation compels over 1 million Gazan Palestinians to depend on international aid for their livelihood. Israel has permitted Qatar to deliver hundreds of millions of dollars in aid through Hamas, while most other foreign assistance typically reaches Gaza through the Palestinian Authority, PA, and United Nations agencies. This year's assault by Hamas on southern Israel, which the group's leadership has dubbed Operation Al-Aqsa Storm, is remarkable in terms of its strategy, magnitude, and covert nature, according to experts. The operation commenced on the morning of October 7th, coinciding with the Jewish Sabbath and an important holiday, as Hamas launched thousands of rockets into southern and central Israel, reaching cities as far north as Tel Aviv. In addition to the rocket attacks, Hamas militants breached the heavily fortified Gaza border and infiltrated many towns and villages in southern Israel. This resulted in the tragic loss of hundreds of Israeli troops and civilians, with numerous others wounded and kidnapped. Hamas's military leader, Mohammed Deif, cited Israel's prolonged blockade of Gaza, its occupation of Palestinian territories, and alleged offenses against Muslims, including the desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, as motivations for the assault. This incident represents the deadliest attack on Israeli soil in decades, leaving a profound psychological impact on the Israeli population. Some analysts have drawn comparisons to the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor and September 11, 2001 in the United States, as Israeli and US intelligence agencies reportedly had no prior indications of Hamas's intentions. Israel has declared a state of war against Hamas and retaliated with intensified airstrikes on Gaza targets and ground operations to expel the group's militants from the country. Civilian evacuations from Israeli communities near Gaza have been ordered. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has cautioned of a long and challenging war against Hamas, and Israel's military response is expected to be extensive, if not unprecedented. Some observers are contemplating whether Israel might embark on a full-scale invasion and reoccupation of Palestinian territory, a course of action that could result in substantial casualties on both sides. An Israeli incursion into Gaza could also provoke a significant response from Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant organization in Lebanon, potentially igniting a broader conflict in the region, experts warn. Iran is, of course, a patron of Hezbollah, as well as Hamas and other Palestinian militant groups, and there is always the looming risk of a two-front conflict, which could have devastating consequences for parts of Israel and much of Lebanon, where Hezbollah is headquartered. There is an escalation risk, notes CFR senior fellow Stephen A. Cook.